as our attendees are starting to come in from different places around the world. This is exciting. We will give them just another couple of seconds to join us. And that's looking good. What do you say, ladies? Shall we begin?
All right.
Yes, welcome everyone to the Wedaways Advantage, Travel and the Business of Weddings. This is episode 2, the value of venue sourcing. We've been excited to get into it. I'm Renée Strauss, co-founder of Wedaways with my business partner and wonderful daughter, Pamela Goldman. Pamela, how are you doing?
Hi.
I'm not used to not being in the same office with you. But this is good. It's all good. And we are joined again by Kristen Seaholm of the KS Experience. How are you?
I'm good. Good morning.
Good morning. We're so delighted you're here. Of course, we're broadcasting from Southern and Northern California. Kristen, you're up in Monterey?
I am. Yes, beautiful Monterey. It's a little foggy today, but it will hopefully burn off this afternoon.
Well, you can't tell from the picture behind you. And I'm down in Laguna Niguel. And Pamela, you are in
Beverly Hills.
Awesome. We have a great California representation here. Well, one lucky winner who has tuned in to all 3 of our Wedaways Advantage, Travel and the Business of Weddings webinars is going to win 3 nights with breakfast daily, a special dining experience for 2 spot treatments, and a special in-room amenity from one of our sponsor properties in the Viceroy Hotels and Resorts group. There are 4 Viceroy hotels represented on Wedaways.com, and I'm today sitting in front of the glorious Viceroy Riviera Maya. And Kristen, where are you?
I am hanging out at the beautiful Viceroy Los Cabos, Mexico, which happens to be the location of your guys' last FAM of 2019.
It's true. It was our finale FAM for 2019, and we loved it. It is a spectacular property. And Pamela, where are you?
I love the mountains, so I'm at the Viceroy Snowmass in Colorado.
That's awesome. Now, the last webinar that we did of room blocks, demystifying room blocks, we also had as one of our backgrounds the Viceroy Sugar Beach, and it's a gorgeous property also. So you've got to dig into the site, Wedaways.com. As you know, we're a dual-sided marketplace. Wedaways.com is a search engine that features luxury properties around the world that cater to the wedding and honeymoon markets. And the travel agency side, which is Virtuoso affiliated via Departure Lounge, is led by Pamela and her team. So we are here for you, and we cover all bases, and the value of venue sourcing is right up our alley. So Kristen, we are so excited you're here. How can you get us started today?
Yes, so excited to be back. Thank you so much for having me, ladies. Really quick before we dive in, we're going to tackle a couple of those housekeeping notes again. So if you haven't already, please go open up your chat box, say hello, let us know where you're tuning in from. Remember that the more engaged you are, the higher chances of winning that Wedaways giveaway at the end of the series. And any questions you have, please go ahead and put those into the Q&A box. I'll be managing that throughout today's webinar. And again, we're going to have a lot of really great information talking about venue sourcing today, but do not feel obligated to take notes. Wedaways will be following up with a link afterwards, so if you want to go ahead and rewatch that later on. And then today we are jumping in about venue sourcing, which is one of my favorite subjects coming from venues and resorts. Venue sourcing is such an important piece of the planning experience. And it can be, you know, it's that initial bulk piece heading into the experience. So the better that you're able to have a really fabulous venue sourcing experience, it's really going to lend itself throughout the planning process as well. And this also really ties in nicely with how Wedaways got started. You ladies, I'd love for you to share with everyone a little bit of the background of Wedaways and how venue sourcing really kind of got it started for you.
Oh, okay. Well, thank you for asking. I think I'll go ahead and start. As some of you know, my background for decades was the luxury retail bridal space. And, in every generation, there are critical times that happen to the economy and to the general landscape of business. And when I started my business before Pamela was born, we went through a very difficult time as well. There was a designer that came onto the scene that came up with such a breakthrough design that no retail bridal salon across the US had anything like it. The distribution was limited. Designers and manufacturers were thrown off orbit because they had nothing like it and couldn't get merchandise into stores fast enough. And there were many, many, many retail bridal salons across the US that lost their businesses. And I was at a crossroads because I had just bought a building and was moving into the building when all of this happened. And I didn't have any merchandise that any customers wanted. Pamela was just born by this time, and I knew that I had to pivot. And the only way that I could see my way through it was to go to another continent and find other merchandise that would have a totally fresh appeal. So I went to Europe. And I visited the 4 major bridal markets in Europe: Paris, London, Barcelona, and Milan. And the merchandise was beautiful everywhere, but I really loved the Italian merchandise the best. And I developed a great relationship with the Italian Trade Commission, and I went back for years, another couple of decades, importing wedding gowns into the US, and it saved my business. And fast forward into around 2010, I was very lucky, and it was when reality TV was just like hot, and everybody was getting a TV show, and I got lucky and got one myself. So when I was invited to star in The Brides of Beverly Hills, it really sort of created this window to the world of all the decades of dedication that I had put into my business. And it was a really great show. I loved doing it. And it was super popular in some markets in Europe. And one of the top markets it was popular in was Italy. Well, after I had shot a few seasons of the show, I felt like I hit the pinnacle of my career and I was ready to do something else, but I didn't know exactly what. So I ended up shuttering brick and mortar, and the timing was very, very good for me. But I was like a deer in headlights for a short amount of time, concerned about what I was going to do next with all the pent-up energy that I had. And the fans of my show from the Italian Trade Commission in New York gave my credentials to the Italian Tourism Board in Italy, and they contacted me, and they had a pitch about bringing more visibility to the luxury Italian destination wedding market. And I thought it was a really cool idea. None of us knew exactly how that would pan out, but I definitely entertained the idea. And we had a few meetings, and it turned out that what my job would be for the contract of the relationship was to bring wedding planners to Italy to tour luxury venues. Now, I relied completely on the Trade Commission and the tourism board to put together the itineraries and choose the properties. And in doing that, I would go to properties, gorgeous, magnificent properties. And even though I was with a group of wedding planners, everybody on the properties really wanted to know more about what we could do together, because I was the one with the visibility, literally the worldwide visibility. And it was at this time that I was getting an idea about, I'm relying on them to do the itineraries. I'm relying on them to pick the properties, yet everybody wants to go deep. How can I do this better and deeper? And this is when Pamela and I were talking. Pamela, can you share what happened at that point?
Yes. So I was living in Israel for 5 years at this point, and naturally, we would speak on the phone all the time, not only as mother and daughter, but I would bounce ideas off of my mom because she's just has this wealth of knowledge and was the original boss babe. And I was really at a plateau in my career in Israel. I had finished my graduate studies a few years earlier, and I was working for a big international sales company, and I had climbed the ladder, and I really was I hit the ceiling. I wasn't going to go any further. And it was frustrating because I was ready to break out and I wanted to do more. And, this entrepreneurial spirit runs deep in me. I think it definitely runs in my blood. So we would talk all the time about what my next step was going to be. Do I move back to London where I spent some time in undergrad? Do I come back to LA? I've always been a traveler. I just have this deep love for travel and culture. I accompanied you on buying trips from being a small child into my teenage years, which was amazing and really opened my eyes and allowed me to become worldly in a way. And when I was young, I had the fortunate choice of celebrating milestones with a celebration, a party, or a trip. And I always chose the trip because I just love to travel, and this was ingrained in our family's backbone, really. I spent a year backpacking in Europe during university when I was living in London. I traveled extensively in the Middle East during my 5 years in Israel. So we would just talk all the time about how we can bridge this gap in the wedding industry, which you were so ingrained in from having your successful retail store, from this gig with the tourism board, and just Italy in general, and what I can do next. So through these conversations, you invited me along on one of your trips, which was fabulous.
It was fabulous, and I'll tell all of you who have children, nieces or nephews, or young or old, whatever age group they are, the discovery of your nearest and dearest as they grow and build their lives is just like totally amazing. So we did. Pamela came along and even celebrated one of her birthdays on one of those trips. We were in Venice, and what was your birthday? 20?
That was several years ago now. That was my 26th birthday.
Okay, I remember at the restaurant, they brought you the cake and you blew out the candles, and then they brought the same cake to the other table. Do you remember that?
I do remember that. I said, I thought I was the only birthday here tonight.
Oh my God, talk about recycle. But anyway, so fast forward, Pamela came on one of the trips, and everybody went back to the US, and Pamela ended up moving back to the US, right? And we decided we would go back to Europe and further explore. So we put together a group of properties, of big properties, north, south, east, west, and even to Sicily. And we rented a car and we went back to Italy for 5 weeks. Mother-daughter trip on the road, back to Italy for 5 weeks, 150 properties we booked appointments. We never missed an appointment, and we never were late, and we made every single appointment. And we talked about it, and before we left, we said, while we're there, we might as well include wedding planners. Not that we knew what was going to happen, but we said, let's interview those too. So while we were in the different regions, we interviewed wedding planners. And at the end of the 5 weeks, we had interviewed almost 100 wedding planners, like I said, 150 hotels, and we had a handful of properties in Italy that were like ready to dive in. None of us knew what it would look like, but they were ready to dive in. We came back to the US and we started to put it together, and we knew we wanted to create a search engine to bring visibility to Italy, because I mean, if you've never been to Italy, or if you've been there 100 times, you want to go. It doesn't matter. It is the land of romance. It is, the birthplace of the Renaissance, art, culture, history, everything. And that's what we did. And fast forward now, we have the travel agency side, which Pamela leads the charge with her team, and I run the venue procurement and the marketing for the properties. And we have almost like we're close to 250 properties in 24 countries, and we've got people in the queue all the time that we're adding. So that's how we started our business, and that's why we love venue sourcing, because we can dive right in.
No, it's amazing. There's so much information that goes into finding the right wedding venue. I mean, we all know, like, there are so many beautiful destination and venues worldwide, but just because it's a beautiful venue and they have pretty pictures doesn't mean that it's right for a wedding. So to have you two that have so much knowledge and expertise behind what it takes to actually do a successful wedding experience, not just for 8 hours, but for the whole weekend or for a week or however many days that those families are traveling, that saves so much time and energy for couples and or their planners to be doing the research themselves, especially if it's a place that they've never been before or don't have the time to go to, and they end up really just kind of doing a Google search, which is not really going to be, you know, as helpful as it could be in the end. So for you ladies, when it goes into the venue sourcing aspect, what does that process look like for a planner coming to you for that assistance?
Yes, I will take that question. Thank you so much for asking. It's true, not every beautiful property is a beautiful property that can host a wedding. And we have made it our priority over the last 5 years to travel the globe and to really find amazing properties that are beautiful, that photograph beautifully, but also can really host a wedding. So it's important to do the venue sourcing. And it's a simple process, actually. Planners, those that are actively working with us, can reach out to me, can reach out to a member of our team, send us the venue sourcing intake form, which we will follow up with for those of you that don't have it already. They can just, you know, send me an email, let me know that they have a client interested in a destination and they're looking to narrow the search because maybe there's too many properties, or they just are unfamiliar, or they just want our expertise, which we have. And we're happy to get started. It's easy to request. We'll send you the intake form, and you just let us know a little bit about your client, and we get started from there.
And tell us a little bit about some of the things that the planners will find in the Wedaways intake form.
So the intake form has some basic information that we need to get started on any venue search. The couple's name, of course, some background details. If there is a date that, you know, they're very set on, we need to know that. If the date is flexible, we also need to know that. And the vision, the style of the couple, any and all details that can help us pinpoint a venue is going to be very helpful. Because let's take the Riviera Maya, where the beautiful Viceroy is. There are so many different properties in the Riviera Maya that fit different styles. So if you're telling us your client is a modern and a minimalist and loves clean lines, we're not going to send you to a hacienda style property that hasn't been revamped since the 50s. So we need the details so we can best source the venues. And then we do ask for budget. It's not because we go into sourcing those details, because we are travel people, so we do not get into the wedding planning, but we can immediately eliminate properties based on budget restrictions. So that's a very important piece of information we need when we're sourcing a venue.
Yeah, that's huge. That's one of the biggest pieces, is to wrap your head around budget so that you're not, you know, putting something that's completely out of their budget, you know, doing a curated list for these planners, and then only one of them is, you know, realistically an option, but not quite exactly what they're looking for. So having something like budget to be able to be mindful of and being able to curate, you know, the best list possible for these planners is incredibly helpful for them to be able to pass on to their couples. Yeah.
One of the value adds, so sorry, Kristen, one of the value adds that we have is we have a great blog, and on the blog, we have some fantastic articles about determining a destination wedding budget. And when we receive inquiries, every day into our system or through our system to properties, one of our team members always responds with these great blogs that are so full of information, and they're read by thousands and thousands, and they're full of great information. So we can share those as well if clients of yours want that information.
Yeah, absolutely. And then with the list, it's cool because you guys don't just focus on your properties. I mean, of course it's helpful because there's already so much wonderful information you have, but in that intake form, if there's information in there that that falls outside of just the specific properties you have for that region, you'll go out of that realm and keep diving further into the area, correct?
Absolutely. Our portfolio of properties is extensive and really fabulous. They've all been visited and vetted. But of course, your couples are going to be our first priority. So we're always going to find the venues that are going to be the best fit for them, whether or not they're on our site.
Perfect.
One of the ways that we actually, I'm just going to interject again. Sorry, I know you weren't expecting my little poke, but the fact is that because we're a virtuoso travel agency, we're invited to, I mean, they've been canceled for this year, the in-person ones, but to international travel events where properties come, luxury properties come, like sometimes up to 500 properties come and exhibit, and we have one-on-one appointments and we can see, and then of course we're invited and we go and we literally pound the pavement and go and see the properties ourselves. So yes, well beyond what we have on the website.
Perfect. Amazing. And when you pull together these curated lists, you go through the intake form, you do the research, you take care of all that time and energy so that the planners can focus on their couples and their, their planning needs and their design needs. When you come back with a curated list, what does that look like? How many properties are you including for them?
We usually are going to include 3 to 4 properties, depending on the destination and depending on the intake form. So we're never going to list like 15 properties because that's why you're working with us, is so we can help narrow the search, and so it's not overwhelming. And I know that all of you amazing, talented planners will sometimes get an email from your couples saying, I love these properties, and it's, a huge list of properties, and that is overwhelming for you, the planner, but also for the couple, because it's just too many options. And as professionals, planners, you as the planner and us as the travel partner, we can work together to really fine tune that list and narrow it down. So we will present about 3 to 4 properties depending on the intake form details. Sometimes our planners will just send me an email because we chat all the time, and they'll say, my couple loves these properties, and they'll list them off to us, and we'll say, and I'll just respond very quickly and say, okay, I've been to usually many of them, and this is my initial thought on each one of these. And we'll just have some kind of casual conversation. Sometimes that will solve the venue question. Just that a little additional feedback that we can give based on our experience and our knowledge of the properties. And then sometimes, we're going to do a full intake form response with the 3 to 4 properties.
So you're able to really dive in and be able to offer those expertise on all these different areas, even if it's a property that you haven't necessarily been to before. Let's say that they, it's one of the properties they sent out, oh, you haven't necessarily been there, but you either know the brand, the company, other properties of theirs, or the region so well that you're able to kind of bounce off of that as well. Is that correct?
Totally. So we have not been to every property for sure. And if we haven't been to a property, I tell you that I have not personally been there. A lot of times one of our team members has been there because we are a team of 7 people. I like to lead the charge because I like to be involved and I love working with planners. It's like my favorite thing. So we have personally traveled extensively, and we do every year, and so has our team. But of course, there are going to be destinations and properties that we have not visited. We're very transparent about that. But again, the beauty of us being a Virtuoso affiliated travel company and going to these number of shows a year, usually about 4 to 5 luxury travel shows where we meet with thousands of properties, it really will help us narrow. And we have conversations with the sales teams and the weddings teams on properties that we haven't been to. So we can still help narrow that search in a very effective way.
Yeah, absolutely. And then with differences between domestic or international, like I see Nancy, you know, you're assisting her with a potential wedding in France. Do you find that the process is different if a planner is looking domestically at a destination venue versus if it's an international destination?
So the short answer is going to be no. The process is pretty much the same. If we're assisting to narrow down a destination and not only a venue, then the timing that we respond may be a little bit longer, because sometimes couples will have in their mind vineyards. Well, vineyards can be in Napa Valley, they can be in Portugal, Italy, France, Argentina, I mean, South Africa, all over the world. So first we have to narrow the destination and then venues within. And this can be overwhelming. And it's such a beautiful thing to be overwhelming because the world is the option. So it's amazing that we are in this world. I mean, now we're having a lull, but it will come back. But of course we do need to narrow the destination so it's not so overwhelming to begin with, and then we'll narrow the venue. So the only difference between a domestic and international curated venue list is possibly the time that it takes us to get back to you. We pride ourselves on being quick and thorough. So we will get back to you as soon as possible, usually within about 4 to 5 days.
Perfect. Yeah.
I have another comment. You know, we have this other webinar series, Wedaways, Getaways, where we invite our property partners to come on. And when they asked us what was expected of them when they came on to present, we told them that we need you to share with our wedding planners the distance you are from airports, because a big piece of an international wedding, a destination wedding, is people fall in love. Like, you know, everybody dreams about a wedding. Men dream about cars, women dream about weddings, and then some people they mix, you know, they cross over, whatever. But in that dream is where the journey starts in the mind with the idea. And if, as you said, Pamela, you know, you're dreaming of vineyards, I want to get married in a vineyard, and it could be in 10 different places in the world, 100 different places in the world, you'll really want to know as a wedding planner, once this group lands in whatever destination it is, what's going to be the logistics, what are going to be the logistics involved in getting from the airport to the destination. And France, for example, you can easily land in Charles de Gaulle in Paris and drive 4.5 hours to get to the destination. Some people are okay with that because we certainly arrange all the transfers, but some people are not. So the knowledge of the logistics of arrival from point A to point B are what we really specialize in. So it's a very valuable piece of information and why we are, you know, the wedding planner's best friend.
Absolutely. And that kind of leads in perfectly, because I was going to touch on next about site inspection. So you curate this fabulous list, you know, you're narrowing down for these couples. Let's say they then want to go and book a site inspection and check everything out and really be able to fine tune and narrow down. What is your process, or how involved are you in terms of setting up site inspections, getting those ground transfers set? How does all of that work in your world?
Site inspections are a very important part of the process. And taking a step back, before the site inspection, once we send a curated list and we're in communication with you as the planner, and you tell us, okay, my couples love all 3 that you proposed, how do I go, what do I do from here? We'll introduce you to the property. So we have the right contact that you need to reach out to. We'll make an introduction and they'll take it from there. And we're always here to assist in the process if need be. And then once your clients have seen a little bit more of the property offering, like a proposal, then they can really decide if it's something that they can entertain for their wedding. From there, some couples will decide to take a site inspection trip. What we're seeing as a trend a lot of times now is actually couples are not even doing site inspections before they choose the venue. A lot of them are booking the venue and then they're going on a site inspection of that specific venue. Maybe they're doing their tasting at that time, meeting with vendors, but that's a big trend now, especially for far destinations beyond North America. And that's really something that we're seeing a lot of. And of course, we can help assist in that as well. We will set up your meeting with the property partner, with the property on-site staff member. And then of course, we'll handle all of the ground logistics. So once you land, we'll make sure that there's transfer there. If you need a secondary hotel, if more people are going to be attending, then we'll set all of that up. We'll set up the rooms as well. And then if there is going to be a full site inspection visiting several different properties, we're going to set that up too. So we'll make sure that you're going to have transfers between each property. So it's really seamless and organized. We get this from our first trip to Italy, where we visited 150 properties and we're never late to one. So we're very, specific and organized about this. We'll set up your schedule, make sure that the transfers are there. And then if you want to experience the destination a little bit and see what your guests may partake in, we can set up excursions as well. Sometimes we suggest you let your couple know to stay a couple of nights in the destination so they could get a really good feel and stay at a couple of different properties so they can get the guest experience, because guest experience is king these days. So it's important to feel it out.
Absolutely. The guest experience is everything. And it's what, when couples and their families and friends are traveling near and far, everyone's much more cognizant of the time and energy that people are taking out of their daily lives to come and celebrate with them. And so being able to give that back and give it back in a full way of a full guest experience, that's part of the overall venue sourcing as a whole as well. It's not just the venue itself, but it really is the full experience for when, everyone's there to celebrate.
Exactly.
So moving forward, we did a site inspection. We had a really amazing time. Now the couple and the planners are ready to move forward. Is there anything that Wedaways does in terms of assisting with contract negotiations when it comes to venue sourcing separate from room blocks, or are you guys pretty hands-off once you get to this point?
It's going to depend on the property. So some properties are going to combine room blocks with the wedding contract. So with F&B minimums, venue space fees, etc. And when that's the situation, we will communicate with the sales director or the wedding contact, whoever's going to be in charge of rooms, and just make sure that the rooms portion is very clear and giving the best to our couple. So we will be in touch in that way. I mentioned in our last webinar on room blocks that occasionally when we're working in a destination with a destination wedding, we will use some of our negotiation tools to make sure that the couple is getting the best value. And sometimes we'll dip into something like F&B if we are trying to negotiate a better rate. So occasionally, depending on the circumstance, we will also be a little bit involved in that. But usually the rooms contract is going to be separate from the wedding contract. So we're just going to take care of the rooms. And if a planner is, having a really tough time with the property, of course, we're happy to step in and say, hey, this is our partner. You want to make sure that they are treated very well. And then usually the property will snap back out of it and be okay. But generally speaking, the two are separate.
Cool. Yeah. And this is, again, where it's really important in terms of the Wedaways relationship with the venues, in addition to your relationship with the planners, because with your tie to the Virtuoso affiliate, you have so much buying power in that respect. And so it's really important for the venue to be keeping that relationship in a positive light. And we know that, you know, sometimes venues can get, depending on who the contact is, what their volume is, they could be lagging a little bit in communication. And we know very well in the wedding world that communication is everything. So to be able to have you guys there supporting the planners, if they're not, you know, getting what they need out of these venues, to be able to, you know, reach out to the Wedaways team and say, hey, this is what's kind of going on. You can kind of step in and see if, you know, if who needs help in moving things along, essentially.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. And it happens a lot. I mean, especially now, there's so much turnover. So it's important to have the right contact. And I'll tell you that we hear from planners sometimes that have reached out to the properties on their own, whether we've let them know about the properties to begin with or not. And a lot of times they'll come back to us and say, hey, this person's not answering. What do I do? Or look at what they sent me. You know, like, it's not so seamless and streamlined. And we always want to remind you that we should be your first point of contact, and let us make the introduction, because that's going to go a very long way. Because like you said, we have buying power. Not only are we Virtuoso affiliated, which, as we've stated plenty of times, it has a cachet and it speaks volumes, and we have to do a lot to be admitted into that and keep, you know, our standards very high year after year to be reaccepted, which we're very blessed and feeling grateful that we are. But also, you're going to get the best initial proposal when we introduce you. And that's the way it is. So if you go to a property directly and then you try and bring us into the mix, sometimes the properties will say to us, they'll actually say to us, Kristen, you may have experience with this, listen, we already sent a proposal, it's filed in our system, whatever that means, and we would have given a better F&B minimum, we would have given better room rates, we would have given better venue space fees or waived a venue space fee if you would have been the initial contact, but we can't go back now because we have to save face and it's in our system. So that actually has been said to us several times. So it is really always best for us to introduce you to the property to make sure that you're going to get the best initial quote.
You know, it really comes down to not only the collaboration between a wedding planner and us as the travel resource, but it's really proceeding with your business as partners. We're in tandem. One doesn't go with the other. I mean, very rarely, even a local wedding is not going to need ground transportation, airport pickups, you know, all of the people coming into Southern California, Northern California, we're all in a destination that's desirable. So even if you have a local wedding and only 5 people are coming in town and you need you know, a couple of nights, but you want people to have a good time together. You know, booked your venue, but you want to take everybody out to a really cool restaurant to get the real sense of place. We can do those things. We specialize in understanding the destination, because not only are we partners with the venues, and you're right about the buying power, because there are wedding planners that book, you know, consistently one destination and the same property several times. But because of our international network, we book hundreds of pieces of business every year, and we know multiple resources in every category: venues, you know, excursion companies, all transfer companies. So as I said, it's really about collaborating and approaching business as partners, and not like leaving it to the end. Oh my God, you know, I should have called the Wedaways. No, think about us from the beginning, because all we're going to do is enhance the experience for your client. We're adding value. And again, we always know that you have to add value before you get the opportunity. So add the value, have the confidence, count on us, and we will make what you do even better. In fact, we say Wedaways is where wedding planner entrepreneurs come to get better at what they do. And we're specifically talking about collaboration.
Absolutely. Being at a venue and being able to have a wedding planner and a travel planner combination like Wedaways does for your planners, it's a match made in heaven, because you know, just like when we were talking about room blocks, you know all the right questions to ask, not just specific to a venue and a wedding logistics, but everything that encompasses that experience, like how far they are from the airport and how you're going to do the ground transfers, and being able to take care of all these additional logistics. It fills in all the holes so that everyone has a much better experience from beginning to end, because you're also helping out the venue at that point by taking care of all these outside logistics. The couple and the planner are relying less on the venue to then set up ground transfers and things of that nature, when the venue's resources are more geared towards the leisure guest side of things in those respects. So it really is kind of a win-win.
And then it's very important for the clarity of understanding that Wedaways is working for the client. We are not working for the venue. We are not working for the destination management company that might be booking the excursion. We're not working with the wholesaler. We're not working for the wholesaler. We are working for the client. Our service, the hours that we put into this, are strictly for the benefit of the client. And it's important to really understand where we stand and how we do business.
So you will take care of more than just the wedding day in terms of those ground transfers and excursions, right? When it comes to assisting with getting from the hotel to the rehearsal dinner, or maybe a welcome party is offsite. Wedaways can assist with all of those details, correct?
Definitely, absolutely. And if you don't ask us, we will recommend it to you. And make sure that, you know, that's being taken care of. Anything related to the travel, ground transportation, we can handle. And just to mention, a lot of planners in different destinations, when working in different destinations, will, like you said, Kristen, rely on the property, which you know. And not only are our rates going to be better than what the property is going to be able to assist with, because they're using their own transportation, or they're using the same company that we're using, but they're just marking it up higher. But we also, you know, we have great relationships on the ground with different partners and several different transportation companies. And we make sure that the right company is.
Oh, I think Pamela froze.
A rehearsal dinner, we want to make sure you have the right vehicles. We want to make sure you have the right vehicles. And that vehicle might be different than if you have a snorkeling excursion. So we have everything at our fingertips, and we can assist with all of that, rehearsals and excursions and the wedding, of course, itself.
Yeah, absolutely. And so when looking at the different types of venues or partner properties rather, what kind of perks does Wedaways get from your partner properties that you're able to offer or have in conjunction for your planners and their couples?
Okay, so that's one of the benefits of working with one of our property partners, is that we are going to be able to apply some extra special perks to your guests, your couple's wedding. And that doesn't mean that it's going to be, you know, like an extra hour of time on the dance floor, but what it does mean is that your couples are going to get the VIP treatment when they check in. So something that a lot of you planners may have noticed when you're doing your own room blocks, or working with a travel company or working with Wedaways, is that these are group bookings, okay, which is like, it's not a romantic word at all, this group. It's like, we're talking about a wedding, but it's still called a group booking. So there's usually not going to be a lot of concessions with a group booking at a regular hotel. But at our partner hotels, your couples are going to get an upgrade, whether the wedding is there or not. So if we're just using one of our partner properties for a room block, your couple's also going to get an upgrade. They're going to get in-room amenities. They're going to get some special treats that are going to just make their experience that much sweeter. And our property partners, they are amazing. I mean, they really go out of their way to make sure that our clients are fully taken care of. We believe in them and they believe in us. And it's a really beautiful partnership that we have with those specific properties as well.
Absolutely. So are there certain things that you look for when vetting for a partner property versus just any property that you would recommend through curating a list?
I'll pick that one up real quick, if I may, Pamela. The answer, because I'm in charge of venue procurement, and Pamela certainly is right there with me, but I do a lot of the, push my sleeves up to my elbows and dig. If you notice on our website, there are a lot of independent properties. And the reason that we have a lot of independent properties are several-fold. And one of them is that very often the owner is on site. And if the owner is not on site, they have a management team that's been there for years. Now, it's not the type of thing where, oh my God, the management has been here for years, so they're complacent. No, they are excited about what they do, and they love their property, and they take care of their property. And during the time that they're closed, if they're seasonal, they're always doing the refurbishments. We check the kitchens. We want to make sure that they've got ample space. We want to make sure that some properties, we have one property on our website, I think they have 9 rooms. It's a beautiful hamlet. But they can host a wedding for 120 people. Now, what happens in that case? We already know that they need to bring in extra facilities for those guests. We understand the logistics. And for people that just want that view or want that food that that property is famous for, we know what can be accommodated. We check pillows. We check hair dryers. Remember, Pamela, when you and I went and we would have our meetings during the day, and then we'd separate to our own rooms because they were, Pamela's my grown daughter, but I wouldn't have minded sleeping in the same room. It would have been like a lot of chit chat. But Pamela, she wanted her independence, which I understood. And it was actually great because your experience was different than mine, or you noticed different things. And when we came together, we talked about that, from the quality of the towels to the flatware on the table. So the answer is, there's a lot that goes into it, and we always want to know the quality of the food for a wedding or banquet or rehearsal dinner. That food quality consistency is very high on the scale. In fact, when we thought about this business and we were trying to figure out what to call it, we kept racking our brains. Wow, we know weddings, we love weddings, we love to get away, we love to travel. And it was really literally waking up in the middle of the night saying, Wedaways. And hopefully people understand that, we're not wedding planners, but it's about weddings that are away, and it makes sense. We specialize in this for a reason.
Yeah, absolutely. It really is those nitty-gritty details that Wedaways gets into when venue sourcing that can be so beneficial to a wedding planner who has a handful of clients that they are working with, being pulled a million different directions. They know that they can just go to you, talk to you about this is what they're looking for, and know that you've done all the research on the back end and that you vetted these properties thoroughly to ensure that anyone that you're recommending is going to be a really amazing experience for them and their clients. So one really important aspect of wedding venues and venue sourcing that can be really sensitive sometimes, and one of the things that I absolutely love about Wedaways is how you treat for LGBTQ+ weddings. So can you explain to us a little bit more about what that looks like for your venues when you're looking and vetting properties, and how you go about to ensure that when you're marketing these on wedaways.com, that everyone is involved is being taken care of in a respectable manner?
It is so important to us, like you said. The ethos of Wedaways is inclusive, community, welcome, and just being welcoming. So of course, this is a big topic for us. And if you've been on our website, wedaways.com, and you've perused the stunning venues that we have, you'll actually notice on each venue page, there is a little rainbow heart, which indicates that the property is ready and welcome and excited to host LGBTQ plus weddings and celebrations. So we absolutely, this is one of the top questions in our vetting process is the property welcoming and inclusive? There are some destinations in the world that are not there yet, and we are very mindful of this. So when we are vetting properties and curating venues for your clients, and if they are LGBTQ plus community members, then we need to know so we can make sure that we are including the right destinations if we're searching for destination as well as venue. But it's very important to us, not only the LGBTQ plus community, but all minority communities and fringe communities are important, and we make sure that our properties know this is the type of company we are, our philosophy, and to make sure that it's the right fit for our couples.
Yeah, it can be such a sensitive subject sometimes. And in the wedding community, we all want to make sure that we're taking care of our couples from beginning to end. And there's times where you just aren't sure when you're speaking with specific destinations and specific regions. So to be able to connect with Wedaways and have that conversation and really ensure that everyone's being taken care of from beginning to end, I think is incredibly helpful for anyone that is looking to book a destination wedding, whether it's near or far.
Thank you.
So we do have a couple of questions that I wanted to run back to. One is particular to room blocks, as we were touching on that a little bit. Molly was wondering if should a room block not be filled, does the Wedaways team stay involved to assist with the attrition process, or is that on the planner to handle?
Anything regarding the rooms and any contract that we've facilitated for room blocks, we are going to stay involved until everybody checks out. So we absolutely are going to be involved in that process. Hopefully all the rooms are filled and there's no need to settle a bill at the end. But if there is, then of course we're involved, and we're always going to look for ways to make it better for the clients. It's not always possible. That's why working with us initially to do the room block so we can help with the room count is going to be really important, because we're not going to completely lowball the room numbers, because you don't want the hotel to sell out and then there's frustration on the part of the couple, but we really in an educated way work with you to make sure that the right number of rooms.
Yeah, oh, I got frozen. Oh, there. You know, I mentioned this last time, but I just want to briefly mention it again, that there's a property that I recently visited and had a conversation with, and I asked them, it's a renovated property, all new staff, so we had not really worked with them yet because they're just starting to book. I asked them who's speaking with the clients about room blocks, and they said, we are. And I said, is there any travel company intervening on their behalf? And they said, no. And they said it with such glee, because when they work directly with the client who really, I mean, who's never done it before and will very likely never do it again, they don't know what is available to them, and they lose. They lose. You're doing a big service to your client by bringing in a professional on this, in this regard, because the client gets a lot more than they would ever get on their own.
Yeah. Absolutely. And with that, I'm not seeing any questions in the Q&A box. I do want to read off a couple of the wonderful comments that we've had coming in. But while I'm doing that, Renee, do you want to pull up the compare tool that Wedaways has? Because this is a really, really useful tool. We touched a little bit earlier about comparing venues and with that curated list. And Wedaways actually has a compare tool on their website so that you can take that list, and if any of the properties on that list are Wedaways properties, you can actually do a really, really cool side-by-side comparison to be able to even further kind of narrow down the ins and outs of each property for your couple.
I'll go ahead and share my screen.
And then some of the things that have been coming in, which are really great, is let's see here. We have planners that have been going through Wedaways and been getting their incentives as well as F&B and room blocks taken care of through Wedaways. So they are always consulting with Pamela and the Wedaways team first, as well as, there was one other really great one for keeping everything on track for the room block specifically and keeping the clients updated all the time. So really, really great kudos for Wedaways and your team. I know you guys are always on top of it.
Well, thank you. We appreciate that, and we love working with you.
That's beautiful. Okay, so I'll just show you this really quickly. I pre-selected 3 of the Viceroy properties that are sponsoring our webinar today. I chose Viceroy Los Cabos, Viceroy Riviera Maya, and Viceroy Snowmass. And in order to see what that looks like, once you've chosen the compare, you can compare up to 3 at a time. You just select compare, and list sorts where you can look at the location, the Wedaways amenity that you get, and we always add more to that, the room rate averages per night, and the event spaces and capacities for each property. And then there are a lot of different wedding services that different properties provide, and the ones that are highlighted are the ones that are available in that specific property, as well as, and there are a lot of them because we have a lot of properties in all over the world, and then about the hotel amenities that are provided, everything that you really need to be able to have the beginning outline of what you may be looking for when you are planning to choose which destination and which venue.
Perfect. Amazing.
Yeah, the Wedaways website is a great tool. We encourage all of our planners to use it. It was built for you. Please use it. It's great if you're just on a call with your clients and they mention a destination. You might be like, uh-oh, you just go to our website and you can search by destination, and we have beautiful destinations that you can just review. We have also destination pages, so you can read a little bit about those destinations in general to get a little bit of background knowledge. But it's a great tool, and we encourage you to use it. And we do that compare on the back end as well. So for properties that are not part of our portfolio, we compare them for you when they're in our curated list of venues.
Definitely. And I'm sorry, go ahead. Were you going to say something?
I do see another question. So yes, about the venue site inspections. We organize the site inspections. So once your client has narrowed down, we will set up the site inspection. We'll set up the hotel they're going to stay in. We'll make sure that you have transportation that's going to take you between each property. And if you want to engage in some excursions in the destination, see what your guests might want to do, then we'll set that up as well. As of April 1st, 2020, with some new developments in travel, we are no longer booking any economy commercial flights. So keep that in mind. So the flights we are not going to book, but everything once you arrive in destination and you need on your site inspection visit, we will assist with.
Well,
I'm just going to make one more comment. Venue sourcing is something, of course, we love, and we also love room blocks, which I know is a little bit crazy for some people, but we want you to know that even if you've already started a conversation with property, and maybe you're in the contract phase and you have either forgotten to include us in the beginning, or it just slipped your mind, or your couple went directly to the property before they even spoke with you, you can bring us in and we can do our best to work out something amazing. So I see some of you planners on this webinar. It's so great to see so many of you that we work with. we have been included a little bit later on in the process and have still been able to work out some wonderful Wedaways perks. So keep that in mind. Do reach out to us for venue sourcing. It is a wonderful resource that we offer to our planner partners, and we urge you to reach out to us and let us know that you have clients interested in specific destinations.
Well, and this is how we met Kristen.
It's true. Absolutely.
A 5-star property that's now on wedaways.com. So it's awesome. Well, ladies, listen, thank you so much for being planners that tuned in today. We are really appreciative that you took the time, you shared your day with us, and we wish you continued wonderful days ahead. We look forward to seeing you on our Wedaways Getaways webinars. There are every Tuesday and Thursday. We will be taking a break in August, just to let you know, because a lot of our properties around the world are very busy with local business. They will not be able to pay attention to us in the way that we're hoping that they would. So we'll be letting you know about that. Part 3, episode 3 of the Wedaways Advantage, Travel and the Business of Weddings, will be all about navigating the new normal. There will be a lot of information. There'll be a lot of the wonderful things that we offer, all the value that we add, including our fam trips and style shoots and everything that we want to start back up again, God willing, for 2021. We're looking forward to it. Kristen, we love you. We are always so happy when you join us. And Pamela, it's awesome that we can spend some time together. You'd think we would spend more time together, but this is the best we can do right now. To everyone, thank you so much for joining us, and we look forward to seeing you very soon.
Everyone, thank you.
Everyone.